be first to say that it's none of our jobs to come up with ideas or solutions for something that someone else is literally being paid, and paid well, to do in the first place. However, even I get an urge to let the imagination go. So, today, after witnessing basically all that Odyssey has to offer, well, except for the worst part, which is engineering for the space legs, there's at least one thing in our minds that is missing from this expansion. Well, okay, maybe two. So, this will be my list of things that probably should have been part of Odyssey to make it a proper smash hit, or at least would make it far better. Oh, and I'll try to keep the list as grounded as possible, so don't expect the number one to be like a physical cocaine injector add-on for your HOTAS or anything like that. Let's then start with the least visible, but possibly the most life-altering. A bunch of quality of life changes. Things like engineering stat proper balance. Things like ship and module stat adjustments. Material gathering and required use improvements, if not a complete restructure. More module storage, more bookmarks, ship transfer, immersion timer removal. Simple things that, frankly, anyone with a brain and enough experience in Elite would be asking for. The sad and pathetic fact is, developers of Elite never bothered to actually adjust any stats of anything, unless it was literally causing players to skip the grind, and surprisingly have more fun doing so, or crash the game. Sometimes not even that gets their attention. And this in turn basically makes the team handling Elite look like uptight, snobby, and frankly more arrogant than yours truly. I mean, seriously, do you think that your game is so perfect that you don't need a monthly, or hell, bi-yearly, or yearly balance passes? How much farts have you been sniffing to think that? With Odyssey, as great many changes come, if nothing else, simple value adjustments would be cheapest and easiest thing to put in, which, if done properly, would have greater impact than any Spacelegs ever would have. Now then, let's take a look at the other end, the most asked for feature that everyone and their dog expected from Odyssey with the Spacelegs: ship interiors. Well, I have seen people say, I don't get it, what's the big deal, I don't even want it. Well, too fucking bad, because you're refusing to acknowledge reasons, that's all. So come on, move your brain and think. Spacelegs, ability to have a real first-person avatar instead of a smaller vehicle as means of moving about, adds a much-needed perspective and, may I say, intimacy? That Elite, frankly, already had but lacked in some crucial areas. Now, those quote-unquote holes of immersion can be plugged, but they are not. When people ask for ship interiors, it's not just to look around the cockpit, however, it's a good start. See, cockpit alone was, is, and will be our more permanent home, a place from which the gameplay happens. So adding an ability to look around it from a different perspective only adds to this connection and attachment we have formed. Ever since I noticed developers hiding the fact that we wouldn't be getting interiors and rightfully reporting on it, I've seen more than an anecdotal amount of messages and comments expressing both disappointment for not having interiors for ships and wish for this feature to be in the first place as the main selling point for Odyssey. Without a doubt, if there was one thing that anyone with a half a brain and some kind of investment in Elite's community could tell you, it's that the people wanted to walk aboard their homes, their ships, their slithering snake named space vessels. To finally experience fully this tool that we've been using to explore, fight, and work in. And speaking of, the next part that would have made Odyssey far better would be EVA, or extravehicular activity, spacewalks. Basically floating in space with your body, and not just be able to get out on a planet. See, this one's a more active gameplay element, where the ship interiors would be more passive element. See, spacewalks would offer a chance to, say, repair your ship integrity, maybe finally be able to repair a power plant, which to this day is still the only module you cannot fix without going to a starport, or pick up a box, or turn on a satellite. Wait, hold on, I think I've seen this somewhere, and it being rather awe-striking too. I can't put my finger on this. Where the fuck did I see this feature before? Anyway, such things as boarding other ships and so on, while I would accept as a later addition, at least the ability to make spacewalks like modern astronauts do, would be the unique space nerd moment that is indescribable in any game that uses it, especially for highly immersive titles, like Elite Dangerous, don't you think? Now, if you're talking about gameplay additions, well, a great win for Odyssey would be to fulfill existing features, feature list. Back in the day, developers introduced this multi-crew, a kind of a shit co-op feature that as an idea wasn't bad, but due to completely lackluster pay and more so broken nature in general, that to this day it's a coin toss to see whether or not it even will work. People back in the day expected that you'd be just jumping onto a friend's ship and take over, or be simply able to do the same things that the host can. What instead we got was, well, mostly that, except following. Ability to pilot the ship, use SRVs, and be in a multi-crew and be joining a wing. These three features felt like they were left out, and for Odyssey it would have been a great win to finally finish this feature and make it a non-restrictive pilot twice used condoms. But I mean completely and utterly fucked. Ability to use SRV while being in a multi-crew, be that telepresence or physical, certainly should have been there since the beginnings. But still, do you know how much fun co-op gameplay, now that the spacewalks exist, could we have had? Granted, multi-crew was a disaster, and still is. See, Cobra engine that Elite Dangerous uses seems to not like multi-crew at all, or at least the way it's done now, and maybe it's too far gone, too hard to make proper, I get that. In fact, it is the only feature in Elite Dangerous that I can feel oozing massive amounts of tech debt and coding issues, with no real solution. So who knows, maybe it was doomed from the start. And now for the last thing that could have made Odyssey better. Let's talk about Exobiology. With the Phase 3 of Alpha, players were given a working version of this new Elite rank gameplay, matching circles in sets of 3. Yep, an Elite rank in matching circles in sets of 3. That's the gameplay. Now, if this is not retarded, then I truly don't know what is. Seriously though, remember back in the day when first planned landings were released? SRVs were the new toy that we got to play with, and it extended our ability to find things and navigate. There was a new and very clear way the gameplay on planets would differ from the one on Supercruise. So what would make Odyssey better would be the same effort put into spacewalks. Now my example would be, due to spacewalks being more intimate relation to your environment, how about a more precise way to navigate on planet's surfaces while using the tools and features of the spacewalks, just like the little radar thing on SRVs. Maybe a more precise and detailed description when you take a soil sample. Say it tells you where the breakable material rocks appear, or what exact percentages are in the current zone. Maybe, and I hate to suggest this, dedicated mining for materials? Maybe being able to place markers on planet surfaces thanks to spacewalks. Something that would separate exploratory gameplay for space feed from SRVs and ships, not just, well... Hey Jim Bob, I'm now corporal in matching them tech anuses. Oh, well, this is brilliant. So, developers came out with a statement about the genetic sampler. Developers now vouch to remove it. Whether or not they will put something back in place for the gameplay portion is under a question mark, but one thing is certain. The Exobiology Elite rank now will be even more pathetic. Stand and look at this randomly generated thing. Genius! I can't but feel that exobiology and general feed gameplay is hollow and thrown together as a minimum viable product rather than a genuine effort to make these atmospheric planets unique and different, unlike what planetary landings did back in the start of Horizons. But hey, maybe I'm just talking into the void. Sure, there is a chance that this list will become a later day update, but you only got one first impression. And for this greatest update ever, it feels like a total MVP indeed. Regardless, these 5 things, if existed for Odyssey, I think would have made a far more appealing sell. And notice how me, a self-proclaimed first-person shooter maniac, did not mention anything about shooting. Weird, but that's the thing. Elite has the unique power of immersion, so I would have expected more of it here, rather than, well... So let me know down below, maybe you have your own list of things that would have made Space Laser, this Odyssey update, better for you. And while you're there, if you enjoy... check out my Patreon down below, as every buck helps this Latvian stay independent and more so, fed with potato. Potato good.